Hi there. You probably already know that there are more than 100 countries in the world. Well, of those countries, a vast majority of them have, well, one of the types of governments I'm going to tell you about. Let's look at what what we have to say here. You've got a socialism, fascism, communism, dictatorship, oligarchy, monarchy, democracy, republic, totalitarian. What do they all look like? Well, I'll try to give you a really brief scenario. Socialism probably is best described as a public ownership of business, public ownership of the major industries. You know, if you have the steel industry, if you have, say, healthcare, or you have energy, it would be publicly owned. And there's probably more industries that fit into that. Countries like Norway and Sweden may be examples of socialistic countries. Now, with those countries, there's one thing we know for sure: a lot of regulation and a lot of taxation. And that's what some would argue is the challenge. If you're taxed a lot, are you going to want to work a lot? And usually, high taxation taps the incentive. Just an idea. Then you have fascism. Yes, fascism was popular in the 1930s, and I use that word very loosely. It was became well known in the 1930s, is probably what I should say. It wasn't popular because it was cruel, it was awful, it was sick. One nation rule, nationalism. The nation has one type of people that rules, one kind of race. There's a superior race. That was Adolf Hitler's idea, and that was Mussolini's idea. Thank God they were both killed and they were stopped. They were defeated. But that is an ideology that has been around for quite a while. Fascism is very evil. Then you have communism, also an evil ideology. It's all about everybody shares what they have. Sounds good, but again, taps the incentive. Karl Marx came up with this idea. Soviet Union semi-adopted it. Even theirs was much more dictatorship than anything else. But the idea of public ownership, the idea of all the common good, it then later leads to central planning because that's what the Soviet Union did. They planned out the whole economy from the main headquarters in Moscow. So communism is supposed to be all of us getting together. Again, the problem is the individual incentive is almost destroyed. Then you have dictatorship. Now, folks, dictatorship is almost the cruelest form of government. One person dictates, leads, and basically runs the country and basically tells everybody what they're going to do. And it usually ends up being where dictatorship has military support, and oftentimes the people are the one that lose out because the dictator gets all the power, all the money, all the wealth. That's the way it is. It's a pretty, again, another sick form of government. Places like Venezuela and Cuba are known to be dictatorships, and we could say that about North Korea. We can say that about China. We can say that about some other countries. Soviet Union is in between because even though they got a president named Vladimir Putin, you never know. Then you have oligarchy. What's an oligarchy? Well, ironically, oligarchy is a form of dictatorship, but it involves more than one. In other words, a bunch of families or a bunch of powerful individuals run the system. That again could fit into the Soviet Union and some other countries as well, where just a ruling class rules, and again, the rest of the people had to pick up the crumbs. Not a pretty sight, and not a sweet, not a very nice form of government. Then you have monarchy, where you have one person rule, again, like a dictator, but normally the monarchy is someone who has a family chain. In other words, maybe their dad was a king, or maybe their mom was a queen, and it was handed down generation to generation. A lot of kingdoms are based on that. Somebody in that royal family will become the next king or queen. That's how monarch, and it's still a leadership by total control at the top, most of the cases. The United Kingdom, you say, well, Britain is used to be a monarchy, more in the sense of a King Henry VIII type monarchy. But then once Parliament entered the picture, it's become symbolic and ceremonial. There's still a king and there's still a queen. Actually, pardon me, there's mainly a queen, Queen Elizabeth. But that's more of a social situation than anything else. Yes, the parliament pays respect to her, but again, the power is mainly in the hands of the parliament. Then you have democracy. Familiar term. Now, here's a little bit of confusion. We hear on television a lot about America as a democracy. No, we're not. I'm sorry to tell you that. We are a republic. That's the next form of government. Democracy and republic. How are we a republic? We vote in people to represent us. You have 50 states, and every state has 2 senators. We vote for those 2 people to go to the U.S. Senate to represent us. And then in our localities, we have representatives, approximately 400 to 500,000 per representative, 400 to 500,000 people per representative. That becomes the House of Representatives. 435 representatives, 100 senators. The 435 representatives go ahead and hear what they consider the voice of the people. The senators do too, but there is more of a connection between the states when you have the senators involved. And then you have a president of the United States who was voted in by what we call electoral college. Again, that's been in the news recently. Why is the electoral college a part of our system? Mainly because the founding fathers wanted to make sure the smaller states felt like they could be a part of the system. In fact, that was the only way to get the smaller states into the system, as well as a few other things that they needed to do. But you got a state like Wyoming out there, which only has a couple million people, they're going to feel left out if the state like California, which has 38 million, or a state like New York has 222, 24 million, they're going to feel like no one's listening to them. So you have to have electors to represent each state so that everybody gets to be part of making the choice for president. That's the way it's been for 230 years. And despite the push for a popular vote, I don't think those small states are going to like it too much. But anyway, that's my opinion. And then you have a democracy. Again, that sounds awfully sweet, doesn't it? You get 100 people in a room and 51 say yes, 49 say no. That's beautiful. And there are some countries that do believe in that. Smaller countries are more effective, again, because of numbers. A country like India has a popular vote for their leader. So it's a democracy in that sense. But it's usually in the smaller cities where democracy does the best because of the fact, the numbers thing. It's hard to get people into a room for 100 votes per day when you got to go to work tomorrow. It doesn't work too well. So democracy is a concept, which is a wonderful concept, allowing each person to have individual rights. But it's the republic we step up and see voting take place. Then you have the totalitarian state. Going back to that thing called direct, almost dictatorship. Totalitarian, one person rule. And that's still not good because that is cruel. Now, if you were to pick the one, I'm going to tell you, I like the republic and a democracy type myself. Now, I know some of you think socialism sounds good, and quite honestly, probably compared to the rest of them, it's a lot better. But still, socialism, the problem with socialism is this: it tends to take the incentive away for people to be really creative and really move ahead. That's probably the biggest drawback for socialism. And plus, there tends to be a lot of regulation, which is not always too good. So there you have it, a list of the kinds of governments or kind of governing philosophies in the world. Let's repeat it again. You got socialism, fascism, communism, dictatorship, oligarchy, monarchy, democracy, republic, and totalitarian. See all that? See it make sense? Hope you got it all. Thanks for listening. Later.